Hello everyone, welcome to my class. Today we shall have an analysis of the Metaphysical Poets by T S Eliot. The Metaphysical Poets is an important contribution of T S Eliot to the understanding of the metaphysical poets. The following 17th century poets are considered as metaphysical poets, and they are John Donne, Andrew Marvell, Crashaw, Vaughan, Herbert, Cleveland, Bishop King, and Cowley. T S Eliot says that they were in the direct current of English poetry and were not a digression from it. Had the current continued, they would not have been characterized as metaphysical poets at all. They really continued the tradition of the 16th century Elizabethan poets. Dr. Johnson used the term metaphysical poets in a derogatory sense to refer to their odd or quaint taste. Dr. Johnson complains that in metaphysical poetry, the most heterogeneous ideas are yoked by violence together. But T S Eliot is all in praise for the metaphysical poets. He praises Donne and King for coupling heterogeneous elements into unity with their poetic sensibility. He admires Donne and Cowley for expanding a figure of speech to logical extremes. He observes that Donne displays his genius in the use of brief words and sudden contrasts. Eliot finds a simple and pure language in metaphysical poetry and a complex syntax which is true to their thought and experience. They were not looking into the heart alone, they looked into the cerebral cortex, the nervous system, and the digestive tracts also. They always tried to find verbal equivalents to states of mind and feeling. They have a mechanism of sensibility which could bring together disparate experiences and thoughts into new wholes, which was called as unification of sensibility. For example, Donne is capable of converting a direct sensuous apprehension of thought into a feeling. T S Eliot says a thought to Donne was an experience, it modified his sensibility. Eliot's view and argument is that the metaphysical poems and poets cannot be considered as a school or a movement. It is just another normal development in English poetry. But this development was disrupted in the following ages, and there occurred a dissociation of sensibility. The so called metaphysical poets possessed a mechanism of sensibility, but in the later 17th century, a dissociation of sensibility sets in. The poetic style of the metaphysical, representing direct and normal development in English poetry, was disturbed in the 17th century. That is, there occurred in poetry a cleavage between thought and emotion. The dissociation of sensibility was aggravated by the influence of Milton and Dryden, whose other merits overshadowed the presence of dissociation. Their influences led to the refinement of language but crudity of thought. It was also the reason for the sentimentalism of the 18th century. In the Romantic age, Keats and Shelley made feeble attempts at the unification of sensibility. In the Victorian era, the poetry of Browning and Tennyson was again an example of dissociation of sensibility. Tennyson and Browning are poets and they think, but they do not feel their thought as immediately as the odor of a rose, says T S Eliot. T S Eliot is of the opinion that modern poets should write more and more comprehensively, indirectly, allusively, in order to force and to dislocate languages into meaning. Like the metaphysical poets, they have to use conceits, obscure words, and simple phrasing. In short, they must be difficult since our civilization is characterized by a great variety and complexity. To conclude, we can say that Eliot's The Metaphysical Poets is an important contribution to the understanding of the metaphysical poets, though it caused a lot of controversy among critics such as F. R. Lewis, L. C. Knights, Frank Kermode, Bateson, and M. H. Abrams. His argument that these poets do not form any school or movement but represent a direct and normal development in the history of English poetry is very remarkable. Click the below link for an essay on the metaphysical poets. Like and subscribe the channel for more such videos. Thank you.